2020. This is Vice Chair Claire Hall calling to order the meeting of the Lincoln County Fair Board. Myself and Mr. Wiseman are present. We are expecting, hoping for the arrival of Mr. Geltner soon, but in the meantime, approval of minutes. I had no corrections, changes, additions. How about you, Mr. Wiseman?
I have no changes or additions. I move that we approve the minutes as published.
Seconded, and it is so ordered. We move on now to agenda item 2, OSU extension 4-H update fair event, and this includes an intergovernmental agreement between Lincoln County and OSU Extension Service for the 2020-2022 Lincoln County Fair, which I believe will be presented by Figment Belmont.
Good morning, all. I have a real quick 4-H update, and then I'll let Mr. Belmont speak to the agreement. Just a couple of things. We're anxiously awaiting reopening of phase 2 or opening of phase 2 so that we can get back to some programming. 4-H has essentially been shut down in anticipation of stage 2 or phase 2, and we have some specific restrictions that the university has imposed on us with regard to contact tracing and sanitation, essentially everything to comply with the governor's executive order on higher education. But we're getting close, and it's exciting to think that after several months off, we'll be back shortly. Couple of just quick items of business. I have a request from the ping pong club, wondering if they can begin using the main hall again. There are always groups less than 10, and they're certainly willing to comply with COVID. We kicked them out essentially when we shut down, but it appears as though they could meet the standard if the main hall wasn't being used. And if that's something I just need to talk with Mr. Melvin about, that's absolutely fine. Or if it's something we can resolve now and get them back in, that would be great.
This is Wiseman. I have no objection to them doing that, providing they can adhere to the C19 guidelines currently in place at the time that they use the facility.
And just for clarification, we're not using the main hall for any COVID response, are we? The Harney building and Pick of the Litter Floral building is being used, but I think the main hall is just wide open. Is that correct, Jack, or somebody?
This is Wayne. I think that is correct, Todd. There's nothing in the main hall at this point.
Okay, and has the main hall been rekeyed, or is it still the same? And I know that the gates, all the external gates, are still keyed for COVID, not back to master keys yet. Are we at a point where we can put that back so we've got access for them with our standard keys?
The last I heard was we still had folks transitioning in and out of the exhibit hall. I wasn't aware that we had cleared it. Amy, am I wrong on
that? My understanding, Jack, and I don't know because I'm not found there, the essential resources that Asia Richardson was doing that had been either in the exhibit hall or in the Harney, or on the old Focus building, the floral building, were being moved to our facility on First Street, and everything was going to come out of there. But I don't know where we're at in actually making the move.
Well, the only lock, this Jim, the only lock we need to change would be the one that they need to get in. We wouldn't have to fool with any of the others.
If you guys would hold on a second, Amy's having trouble with her computer. I've got her on speakerphone through my connection real quick. Go ahead, Amy.
Wayne can correct me if I'm wrong. The last time I spoke to Commissioner Jacobson, we still have all buildings occupied as part of the COVID food response. So we are unable to have anyone else in the buildings at this time.
She guys copy that?
Yeah,
And I think we were holding on to everything, and that's the way we were dealing with it. But I think that some of the logistics, because we just stood down the emergency response to COVID and moved it to a planned response. So the emergency our management team for emergency services is now moved into the long-term response rather than the short-term response. So my understanding is part of that is that we're going to be consolidating everything except for the materials from food share would be consolidated on sites outside of the commons, but we can verify that. We're going to have to verify that.
So,
Mr. Jim, why can't we just, Mr. Jim, why can't we just leave it that if the facility's available, that they can go ahead and do it, and if it's not, they can't? You know, and Wayne, you'll just have to sort it out as to whether or not the facility's available.
That's fine. That would work for me.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah. Everyone needs to understand all the keys have been changed so that just these groups have access. So if anything changes, someone needs to let Jack know so we can get that fixed.
Yeah, right now, the key situation is absolutely messed up beyond belief. We have plans that once the COVID response is taken off the commons, that I have a new keying system already pinned up and ready to go in, and we would have to reissue keys throughout all of our patrons. So if we are going to start renting or using the exhibit hall, I can switch that particular building back to its original cores, but I'll have to use the code locks on the gates because we'll still have two food shares running from Hardy, and you know, it's now, it will be a very confusing blend.
Well, and I have to say that it's been only probably a week or two since we spoke to Commissioner Jacobson about the key situation, and at that time, she did not want to change anything. She wanted to keep everyone with their respective keys in their respective buildings.
Yeah.
So there's, I think, more conversation to be had about whether people can get into the building at this time.
And again, Amy, that was what happened 2 weeks ago. But since that time, the incident management process has moved forward. So there's been some differences done. So we'll check everything out. So it sounds like what you want to do, the consensus is to go ahead and allow this if we can work out all the logistics, and that includes both taking care of the keys and making sure that the appropriate people have appropriate access.
This is Jim. I'm okay with that.
thank you guys, and if you need a motion, make it. I'll work with Jack on logistics.
Wayne, do we need a motion?
I think if there's a consensus of the Fair Board, we don't need an actual motion. We'll just go ahead and proceed if we can do so.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
I agree, so consensus is reached. And Mr. Gellner has joined us. Hi, Frank.
Right.
So we approved the minutes, and we just approved letting the 4-H ping pong club again begin utilizing the main exhibit hall after an extensive discussion of where we are in terms of using the buildings for staging of COVID. And I think to try and sum up a complicated conversation succinctly is providing the fact that the building is clear of any staging of materials for COVID response that we're green lighting it, but giving staff permission to work with Todd on logistical details.
Okay.
So Todd, you were still doing your report. I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. A quick update regarding the power auto sale that's scheduled for the 26th through the 30th of August. Way back in July, I sent Tristan Goebel the information that he needed in order to develop a COVID plan and make application for that sale. I've heard nothing back from him. I sent him another email today saying, hey, this isn't something we're going to entertain at the 11th hour. Get on it if you guys are really going to do this. So I really don't know whether that sale is going to happen or not. And he has been put on notice that he needs to develop a plan, not just an application that would be approved by Mr. Belmont. So we're awaiting that. I'll work with Wayne if that should come in or if I have any other additional information on that. I already mentioned we're anticipating the resumption of our 4-H club year and just sort of slow rolling everything, but it's good to be back, kind of moving forward or feeling like we're moving forward anyway. With that, I'll yield to Mr. Belmont regarding the agreement.
Thank you. And I have to apologize real quickly here. I'm actually at an appointment, and I have my latitude with me, my laptop, but it does seem to be going in and out. So I don't actually have the agreement sitting in front of me. I can hopefully from memory answer any questions that anybody has or use Christy to help me try and pull up any sections. But this is, actually, we've been doing this arrangement with 4-H for several years, and we had a formal arrangement in years past and in discussions with Extension in terms of what we're doing. What we wanted to do was try and get this put together so we can provide some certainty and stability for the next couple of years, at least in terms of the services that we would have for the fair. And so this particular agreement identifies the responsibilities of each of the parties, the county, the fair board, and Extension, in terms of activities that will be undertaken on behalf of the fair board to do the fair, and then so the ancillary activities that go along with the fair and 4-H. This has been reviewed by the OSU attorneys and their contract people. We've gone back and forth on a couple of things, and we have a few more elements that we want to make sure. We're proposing a couple of things just to clarify the agreement from them. But in essence, what it does is it sets a not to exceed amount that's consistent with what we've been providing in the last few years for services. And if those services aren't provided, so for instance, this particular year, because we didn't actually have a fair, the billings were considerably less than they would be in a normal year if we actually have the fair event. So we've prepared this as a not to exceed amount. And this will provide, again, some stability both for Extension and planning their services, and for us knowing that we've got wherewithal to put on a fair event for the next couple of years. So with that, I'm going to open it up to any questions from anybody, and hopefully I can answer those.
Okay, this is Jim. If I understand correctly, the agreement is not completed, not really ready to be signed.
Well, it is. The only thing that we've got is they've actually reviewed it. We've got the only thing that I really need to do with them is to complete under the billing part of this. They did disagree, and we've got the not to exceed amount. But I've added some additional language that clarifies how the billing will actually occur, and they have not reviewed that particular subset of the billing part. And I just, what I would like to see is go ahead and get authority to sign this agreement if we can work out that last billing section.
All right, Jim again, I don't have any problem with that.
Jim or Frank, would you like to make a motion to that effect?
This is Jim. I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay, Frank, you're trying to speak, but you've been muted, so. Still muted, Frank. There you are.
Oh, there you go. No, I'm fine as long as, by the time that they get to sign it, then Wayne's input will already have been incorporated.
So is that a second?
And that will happen.
Yes,
So
second.
this is Jim. I'm assuming that that's what would happen, that this will be completely finalized to Wayne's satisfaction.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I think, and Wayne, do you understand your marching orders clearly? Have we given you clear enough direction?
Yes, you have. Thank you.
Great, okay. I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Okay, we have 3 ayes. And now, Todd, anything else before we move on to staff update?
No, thank you guys for doing that. It's going to make the university very happy. They've been screening for a couple of years, and having that in place will make things a lot smoother. Also, Frank, thanks for noticing that that their language had softened a little bit. Originally, they were the risk management was very, very particular in what they wanted us to do, and the agreement seems to have come off that just a little bit. That's another reason, I think, to get this in place as quickly as we can, because everybody seems to be agreeable at this point. So thank you all for working so hard on it and getting it through, and thanks, Wayne, for the hard work. I'm out.
Thanks, Todd. All right, county staff update. Jack?
Due to the food share occupation, we had to update all the doors and the hardware associated with it to try to keep everything as secure as possible. So most of the fairground has now been, well, it's in getting into better shape because of the usage. We've cleaned things up and tried to secure everything. Other than that, it's been situation normal.
Wonderful. Amy?
We did get email from farmers market about the possibility of using the main exhibit hall this winter.
Ooh.
What I responded with was, between the response and, we were planning on doing a redevelopment in theory by this point, that I didn't think it was a possibility that I could share.
Could we just have preliminary communication, maybe have Todd, Amy, Farmers Market Group, Wayne kind of do some preliminary exploration and maybe bring back a report and recommendation to us for the September Fair Board meeting? Would that be acceptable to everybody?
I can do that.
Okay,
That works for me.
I just missed the message. She said she got an email, and what did it say?
It was from the Farmers Market Association asking about the potential of using the exhibit hall this winter.
Oh, okay.
I'm good with this, Jim. I'm good with all that. Bring it back to September.
And anything else for the good of the order?
This is Wayne. I do have one other item.
Shoot.
So, we've been having discussions, and as part of our COVID response, let me go back because this is a little bit more convoluted and complicated. But as part of our COVID response, we have been providing what's known as non-congregate housing. And for simplest terms, that means motel rooms in our case, but locations where people don't actually gather in a single area for vulnerable populations because of the COVID crisis. So we have provided this to some of our homeless population who are most at risk. We provided this to people who needed to be isolated or quarantined because they either had COVID or were in contact with someone with COVID. And it's part of our response to the whole COVID epidemic. And we anticipate this is going to continue going on. We actually have funding for this through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, and also through what's known as the CARES Act, which is the big federal legislation that provided COVID-19. The CARES Act actually continues through the end of December. At this point, we don't know, depending again on what happens with the spread of the disease, whether or not it'll be extended beyond that time, but at least through the end of December. So we've been actually having the preliminary discussions with various groups in Newport and Lincoln City and some of our other partners about what are we going to do for anything this coming winter for homeless populations. And again, we were expecting Grace Winds to come to us and request again the use of the exhibition hall. We have talked to our public health people, and the last thing we really want to do at this point with the existence of the disease is bring people together and put them into one location, which is just it could be a way in which we actually transmit the disease more rather than prevent transmission. So we're looking at alternatives for what we can do in lieu of having this kind of congregate housing and in lieu of doing what we have done in the past with the exhibition hall. And one of the options that is being explored is, at least in Newport, is the City of Newport Planning Commission on Monday night considered an ordinance, and I actually did not see whether or not it passed, but I think it was, or maybe it's next Monday night actually considering it. This particular ordinance would allow homeless people and vehicles have a place to actually park the vehicles overnight. And they really identified two kinds of areas in which this would likely occur. One would be on public property, and the other would be on churches. And they've got a number of rules and regulations around that particular program that they're examining. And in discussions with the various providers out there and with at least the City of Newport, we wanted to explore the possibility of, and rather than having another warming shelter like we've had in the past at the exhibition hall, and instead we try and locate an area in which we would allow people to park their cars overnight. It would be a regulated activity in a sense that it would be very similar. We'd actually have a host come in a car and a vehicle who would stay with the folks. It would be a certain time you could come in and park the car, and then the car would have to leave at another time. We want to start the discussions with the Fair Board, with the school district who's going to be close by, and some of the other neighbors out there to see if we can make this work on a trial basis at the Commons for this coming year. So I wanted to at least get that out there to you and hear back any initial feedback and the kinds of concerns that you might have to do something like this. So it'd be a different activity than we've done in the past, but something that would at least address the issue in the coming year, especially in light of the COVID crisis. So that's it for me.
Mr. Bellman, I'd like to jump in with an additional thought. 3 cheers, bravo. I have been trying, I think, for years to talk up the idea of the supervised car camping program. Eugene, Springfield are examples of communities who have had this for years, and because of the way it's managed, in their case, through St. Vincent de Paul, it's a success. One thing I would urge, though, be strongly kept in mind in the planning for this, there are a lot of people living on the streets who don't have cars, whether through poverty, through loss of their license, other circumstances. You know, they strictly are on foot, excuse me. Okay, but yeah, has a pretty special safe solution to these times. I think fabulous.
This is Jim. I don't know enough about what's going on with the C19 response to appropriately address the questions and so forth that Mr. Belmont has put forth. So at this point, I'm going to suggest that the Fair Board leave it to the county board of commissioners and Belmont and the county C19 response to deal with this issue in the manner they best see fit. I just don't know enough to really comment on this one.
Jim, Brett, Boone, I do have a big pile of trees here. Would it be helpful if maybe at the next meeting I could get kind of a 5-minute presentation on how a typical car camping program works, who it serves, and some of the success stories?
Yes, but again, I think that the C19 issue is such a big issue that we need to leave it to, again, the county C19 response effort and just trust them to do what is best.
I agree with you, Tiffany, on just thinking again in terms of in our wearing our fair forecasts, we may be asked less this, so I'm just thinking for your comfort level and Frank's comfort level, just to have a little more background on and context on the concept.
Works for me.
My only question, is there a timeliness issue?
This is Wayne. I think that again, remember we traditionally start our services that we've done in the past in actually November last year in terms of doing things. So or previous year. So I think that there is a time element to this, but that if we came back and I think probably by September we're going to have the plan put together pretty well. And I think Commissioner Hall knows the parameters of what these programs look like, but we're actually going to have a specific program in place with a group that's actually going to provide the supervision for this too. That would be the plan here. What I'm hoping to do is really engage, I think, the other partners and users at the fairgrounds itself, at the commons, and for the activities out there to make sure we're addressing any concerns that they have and can operate this in that way, because this is a multiple use facility. So make sure that whatever happens out there is consistent with all the other activities.
So if we had a September meeting, that would be sufficient?
Yes, I think it would. I think we're going to have this thing pretty well put together in September.
So this is Jim again. I just don't know enough. I'd like to be kept informed, but I think the Fair Board ought to authorize, if need be, the county's C19 response people to proceed as they see fit, and just keep us informed as best they can.
And that works. Maybe just to note, this is this is only one segment of an overall response dealing with the homelessness issue, and it's part of really what we're trying to do. Is the immediate issue is in light of COVID-19, but we're also working on some longer-term solutions to that particular problem and some more permanent facilities. So, and in fact, we will still continue the program we've been doing for a number of months now, in which we're and actually renting blocks of motel rooms to provide some assistance for at-risk groups. So we're going to continue doing that.
So again, the only thing I can say is just the C19 team proceeds as they best see fit and keep us informed. I don't know what else to say.
Can you make that as a motion, Jim? I think that would be great to give us some guidance.
All right, I'll move that the Fair Board authorize the, I'll call it the county C19 Response Team, whoever that may be, to proceed with the commons ground as they see fit, and that at our regular meetings that we be provided some information or update as to what is going on.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, the second. Would all in favor please say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else, folks?
Just one last thing from Wayne. We've been monitoring obviously the state response to both COVID, but more importantly for our purposes, what's happening budgetarily to the state as they aftermath of what's going on here. One of the things that had us very concerned, and I know you got some emails related to this, is that there are likely to be some changes in the way that video lottery proceeds are distributed, and that includes the amount that comes to counties for the fair. What I did hear was that during the recent special session in which they addressed that issue, that actually it looks like they are going to honor the commitments they've made with video lottery monies. And since we've already been paid for this year from that may be okay. We did actually see that there was, for those activities that get their payments from video lottery on a quarterly basis, they reduced that in the last quarter of the fiscal year just ended, and we're not sure we're getting that money back, but it looks like on a go-forward basis, things like the fair and economic development that are getting video lottery to get those monies. Now, the only caveat to that is, of course, the total amount of revenue has to be sufficient to fund these things, and that is actually on a decline right now because most of the video lottery teams aren't out there and being used. So stay tuned to that, and we'll keep you informed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anything else, folks? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. This meeting is adjourned. Next fair board meeting tentatively scheduled September 10th, 10 a.m. Until then,
Okay, this is Jim, I'm out.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Thank you.
Be safe, all.